Old folks should just live in facilities, said Rebecca, my eldest son's wife, who appeared out of nowhere as we moved into the newly purchased property. With a dismissive wave of her hand, she brushed us off as if we were nothing but nuisances. Anger welled up inside me, but a whisper from my husband brought me back to my senses. We decided to do as Rebecca wished and leave. Well then, enjoy your time here, we said as we exited the house. We weren't about to let her off easy. A mere apology wouldn't cut it for forgiveness. My name is Judy. I'm 60 years old. I have a husband, John, who's 3 years my senior, and one son, Steve. It took us years to have a child. Finally, through fertility treatments, we were blessed with our long-awaited son. Reflecting on it now, I think we may have spoiled our child a bit too much. Anything he wanted, we gave him. An activity he wished to pursue, we allowed. Back then, we were just so enamored with our son. But was that our downfall? As he grew older, he became increasingly averse to being told what to do, and would quickly give up when things didn't go his way. Both my husband and I regretted perhaps not having been stricter. As time went on, our conversations with him dwindled. By middle school, he was deeply engrossed in online gaming, barely studying, and somehow scraped through to the local high school. His high school days were spent the same way, holed up in his room, gaming away. When it came time to think about his future, he hadn't given it any thought. He neither pursued further education nor employment after graduation. Seeing this, I decided to have him work in the real estate company my husband ran. Although it's a small real estate business, the only employees are my husband, me, and my sister. We've never had trouble with management and thought we could easily bring our son into the business. At first, he seemed earnest about learning the job, but he struggled with customer service and showing properties, and there were several complaints. Before long, he seemed to lose his motivation, spending his time in the office fiddling with his cell phone or daydreaming. One day, when my husband couldn't stand it anymore and scolded him, our son flew off the handle and stopped coming to work altogether after that. In the end, our son only lasted 3 months at the job, leaving my husband and me at our wits' end. He spent the following 2 years shut away at home, but then suddenly he started working part-time at a karaoke bar. My husband and I, though worried about what he was planning for his future, were secretly cheering him on, happy he was working, even if it was just part-time. However, when we asked about his job, all we got were short responses like, "Yeah," or "Uh-huh." We leave for work early in the morning, so we hardly ever see our son, who wakes up just before noon, and by the time we get back, he's gone to work, so family time is almost non-existent. But it seemed like he was somehow managing to keep his job. Then, one unusually warm afternoon, after about 5 years had passed, our son approached us and asked, "Dad, Mom, you're off work tomorrow, right?" "Yeah, I'm off work. What's up?" "Well, actually, I'm getting married. It's sudden, but you'll need to come over to the house tomorrow." His words caught me completely off guard. Our son is still young and doesn't have a steady job yet. Honestly, I'm worried if he's really okay to get married in his current state. "Don't worry. You'll understand once you meet her." But my son, speaking with a shy grin, looked truly happy. Seeing him smile like this for the first time, I felt a sincere desire to support him as his parent. "So, Steve's finally getting married, huh? Looking forward to tomorrow," my husband said with a broad smile, his voice warm. I chimed in, "That's wonderful, Steve. I'll be making a special dinner. We'll wait for you." My son nodded slightly, his cheeks tinged with red. "Then I'm counting on you for tomorrow. I'm off to work now." My husband and I sent him off with smiles. What to prepare for the feast tomorrow? What's his fiancé like? We spent the day chatting about our son. The next day, fully prepared, we heard the front door open around 6 p.m. Feeling a bit nervous, I headed to the entrance. First impressions are important. I need to greet her properly. But when I saw my son's fiancé, I was momentarily stunned. Sorry to intrude." Before I could speak, she entered brashly. My son just followed her, beaming with joy. In a flurry, I followed them into the living room, where my husband also looked surprised for a moment. The girl our son brought home? She didn't look like she was here for a marriage introduction. A short skirt and overly bold makeup? I shouldn't judge her by her appearance, since she's the woman my son chose. Yet I couldn't help but feel bewildered by her outfit on this day. It seemed my husband felt the same, but addressed her with his usual gentle demeanor.
Pleasure to meet you. I'm Steve's father. I understand you work together part-time. Thank you for looking out for him.
He greeted her, but she didn't look at him, starting her introduction instead.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. Nice to meet you.
Rebecca, as she introduced herself, pulled out her mobile phone and stared at it. Honestly, the first impression wasn't great, but I switched gears, bringing out the food from the kitchen to the table. Rebecca, nice to meet you. I'm Steve's mother. Thank you for coming today. We've prepared sushi. Let's eat together. She grimaced blatantly.
Ew, I can't do sushi. Steve told you before, right? I can't eat raw stuff.
Huh? Did you? Sorry, just eat what you can, okay?
Steve tried to appease Rebecca, but her annoyance didn't fade, and she exclaimed,
No way! I can't believe you'd serve something I can't eat. Is this some kind of harassment? That's it, I'm leaving.
Raising her voice like a child, she grabbed her things and stormed out of the living room. Our son chased after her in a panic, but my husband and I could only watch, stunned. Time passed, and the two of them didn't return. The sushi for 4 we had ordered for today remained untouched, and with that, the marriage introduction ended. I shared my honest feelings with my husband. I'm worried. Can Steve really make a marriage work with her? Maybe we should convince him to think it over.
No, Steve is 25. He can handle choosing a spouse on his own. There's no need for us to be overbearing.
I understood my husband's point was valid, but still, the unease lingered. By the next morning, our son hadn't come home. Concerned, I called him.
Hello, Mom. Sorry for the surprise yesterday. I've talked things over with Rebecca, and we've made up, so don't worry.
He said cheerfully over the phone. Oh, where are you right now?
At Rebecca's apartment. Also, I meant to say this yesterday, but we're planning to get married soon.
What?
We want to have another proper talk before we marry, okay? Gotta go.
The call ended abruptly, and I didn't have the courage to call back, left alone in my confusion. Soon after, I relayed the phone call to my husband, who suggested we try to trust the woman our son has chosen. Surely my husband must have his own thoughts. Yet he's trying to have faith in our son. Together with my husband, I decided to trust in our children. 3 days went by, and our son returned home, with no mention of marriage. However, a week later, he suddenly appeared at the office. That day, Ryan, who runs a construction firm nearby, happened to be there. We've known Ryan for a long time, and our son has been aware of him since he was young. In fact, Ryan had asked us previously to buy a new property, and today we were finalizing the contract. My husband was out, but I was handling it just fine on my own.
Hey, Steve, it's been a long time. Ryan, long time no see. I heard from your mom. Congrats on the engagement. If you're thinking of building a house, make sure to use our construction firm. I'll let John know about earlier.
With that, Ryan left the office. Immediately, my son asked,
Mom, I overheard a bit. Did you buy a new property? What are we going to do with our current house, and where am I supposed to live?
Your dad and I decided it might be nice to make a bold move and live in the new house. We won't dispose of our current home right away.
That's fine then. Oh, I'm meeting Rebecca here today before we head out.
Is that so? You're finally getting married? Thank you for letting us know. You'll need to be responsible and take care of your family now. His statement made me wonder if he intended to live at home even after marriage. I patted my son's shoulder, hoping he and his wife would work together going forward. As I was about to return to work, I noticed Ryan's belongings on the chair he had been sitting in. Ryan, you left your stuff. I'll bring it to you, so be careful out there. I told my son and rushed outside to catch up with Ryan, only to encounter Rebecca. Oh, Rebecca, if you're looking for Steve, he's in the office. Be careful on your way there. I'm stepping out for a bit, so let's celebrate another day.
Thanks.
Despite her typically curt attitude, I didn't let it bother me. Oh, right, Rebecca, could you leave this envelope on the desk in the office for me? Sorry to trouble you, but thanks. In my rush, not only had I brought Ryan's forgotten items, but I had also accidentally taken work documents. I handed them to her. Without a word, she silently took them. At that moment, without suspicion, I chased after Ryan. Luckily, I caught up to him quickly, and we ended up chatting for about an hour. By the time I returned to the office, the boys were already gone. I was about to report that matter to my husband, as Ryan had instructed, when I checked the envelope Rebecca was supposed to have left on the desk. Inside the envelope were the property documents and 3 keys to the new house. But there should have been 3, including the spare key, and now there were only 2. No matter where I looked, the 3rd key was nowhere to be found. My husband had been out showing a property, and only my sister had been around at that time. I asked her about the key, but she knew nothing. After receiving it, I immediately lost the keys and was pondering how to explain this to my husband. At the same time, I decided to call Rebecca just in case, but the call wouldn't go through. Nor did my son answer his phone. As I searched around, my husband returned to the office. After I explained the situation, he helped me look for the key. We searched around the desks and throughout the office until late, but the key did not turn up. Disheartened, we reluctantly went home.
Are you sure there were 3 keys? Maybe there were only 2 to begin with.
My husband asked, puzzled. I checked everything when I received them. There were definitely 3 keys.
All right, I'll talk to Ryan about the missing key. For now, let's just move whatever we can as planned.
It was around 7 p.m. Together, we only moved a few items to the new house. The electricity and plumbing had already been taken care of, so the house was ready to move in at any time. We had prepared everything so we could start living there whenever we wanted. Then, though I was sure we'd locked the front door, we heard the click of a lock turning. Feeling suspicious, my husband and I headed to the front door, which then swung open before us. There stood Rebecca and several men and women, acting as if they didn't even see us, starting to move furniture and boxes inside. In this incomprehensible situation, Rebecca snapped at me.
What are you doing in this house? Trespassing? Don't just walk into other people's homes.
Rebecca, what are you doing here? How did you get the keys? I asked her, surprised, but trying to remain calm.
You gave me the keys. I heard from Steve you bought this house, right? A couple over 60 shouldn't be making purchases that are above their means.
With that, my husband and I understood everything. She must have stolen the key from the envelope I gave her that time. I didn't give you the key. I asked you to leave it on the desk. Stealing a key is theft, you know, and trespassing is what you're doing. Ignoring her disrespect, she roamed our home as she pleased, causing a ruckus with her entourage. It was impossible to have a real conversation. Just cut it out.
You guys don't need such a fancy new home, do you? Just scrape by in the old one. Steve and I will put it to good use. The elderly should just stay in facilities.
Rebecca glared at me with a fierce look. Her intimidation didn't faze me. I just couldn't believe she was my son's partner. What kind of person are you?
Oh, did you sell your current home or something? That's too bad. I absolutely can't stand the idea of living together.
Rebecca brushed us off with a dismissive gesture. Her friends laughed uproariously at us.
Get out quickly. It's a waste of time.
Feeling almost overcome by anger, I was brought back to my senses when my husband whispered something in my ear. We decided to leave, just as Rebecca wanted, and to get on with what needed to be done. Sure, enjoy yourselves, With that, we exited the house. Back at our original home, my husband and I shared a laugh.
Isn't this a good opportunity? Let's see if what Ryan said is true.
I'm actually looking forward to it. We resolved to wait for the inevitable call from Rebecca. We decided to make Rebecca feel the consequences of her actions. We weren't about to forgive her just because she apologized. As expected, the next day brought a call from Rebecca. The voice on the other end was different from any I had heard from her before. She sounded frightened, her voice quivering with something like fear.
Hey, you knew about this house, didn't you?
Is something the matter? I nearly laughed at Rebecca's panic, but feigned ignorance. Don't play dumb. Why else would I call you? I couldn't sleep at all last night. My shoulders feel heavy, and there are strange noises coming from empty rooms.
Oh, that sounds serious.
Stop it! You run a real estate business but can't manage a property? Don't joke with me, I'll sue you.
Her incoherent rage seemed to blind her to her own contradictions. I sighed deeply and replied coldly. Then we'll sue you for stealing our keys. We never lent you the house. We bought it to live in. You broke in illegally, didn't you? And if there are damages, you'll be paying for repairs. I stated the facts plainly. Rebecca faltered but snapped back.
This is your house, but it's Steve's house, and Steve's house is my house too.
We did buy it, but we never said we'd lend it to you, did we? Rebecca was speechless, and the call ended. Later, checking the house, we found torn-up lawns, scratched walls and floors, and scattered trash. We documented everything and immediately took action. With all prepared, we summoned our son and his wife to the office. Our son seemed to have heard a twisted version of the recent events from her, accusing us. Both of you threatening Rebecca with a lawsuit and forcing her to repair the house? That's like a threat. What were you thinking? At first, our son was openly hostile towards us, but as my husband calmly explained the situation, I watched the color drain from his face. What I heard was different. Really? And what exactly did Rebecca tell you? After seeing Rebecca, our son began to speak in a confused manner. After leaving the office that day, Rebecca told me that Dad and Mom bought a new house for us. I thought as much. Lately, our son hadn't been coming home at all, and we hadn't heard from him. If he had known the truth, I'm sure he would have contacted us to confirm. I understood that he was head over heels for Rebecca, but to be manipulated to this extent, even as his parent, I was astounded. So what do you plan to do about it? My husband asked in a calm voice. That voice, even I couldn't help but tremble. It was filled with such anger.
I don't know why I should take responsibility. I was the one being mentally cornered in that house. You should be the ones taking responsibility.
Rebecca, are you serious?
Of course I'm serious. Don't make a fool out of me. This is why I hate stubborn old people. So annoying. I was expecting to live in a decent house because Steve's parents run a real estate company. My life plan is ruined. What are you going to do about it?
That must be her true feelings. Before she could lunge at me with bloodshot eyes, my husband stood in her way and, in a stark contrast to earlier, boomed. What kind of nonsense is this coming from a grown woman? I won't allow you to say anything more that hurts my wife. I hate to break it to you, but I've recorded our entire conversation. From here on out, I'm leaving it to my lawyer. Stay away from my wife and me. Unable to withstand my husband's roar and authority, Rebecca stormed out of the office alone, her face twisted in frustration. Our son did not follow her, as he would have before. Afterward, we reconsulted with the lawyer Ryan had introduced to us, and decided to sue Rebecca. However, she seemed to understand that she had no chance in court. She went crying to her parents, who later came to apologize with her. Rebecca's parents kept apologizing profusely, but Rebecca herself didn't seem convinced. After her father angrily scolded her, she apologized begrudgingly, without seeming remorseful. In the end, her parents pleaded for a monetary settlement, and we agreed. A substantial sum was paid, and with that, the matter was resolved. Soon after, our son divorced her, and then he came to apologize. Both of you, I'm really sorry. I should have known better about Rebecca. Seeing that our son had had a wake-up call, we didn't blame him. We hope that this event will be a turning point for him to grow. So, about that house, is there something wrong with it? When things settled down, our son asked us what had happened with that particular property. My husband and I exchanged glances, deciding it was time to tell him everything. Well, you see, when that house was being built, a worker was seriously injured and passed away, it seems. He probably had a strong sense of unfinished business. There were a few people who said they'd buy the house, but no one ever signed a contract because of supposed paranormal activity. We were thinking maybe we could help Ryan by buying and living in it ourselves. So what Rebecca said was true? Yeah, that's about the size of it, but strangely enough, when your mom and I live there, we don't experience any hauntings. I guess it's a result of living right.
At my husband's words, our son and I couldn't help but laugh. Seeing our son smile, I finally felt a profound sense of relief. My husband and I are living in the new house we bought. Our son has stayed in the family home, but it seems he's making an effort to learn household tasks he's never done before. But what surprised me the most was that he suddenly said he wanted to take the university entrance exams. With everything that's happened, I've realized just how much of a child I've been, and how ignorant as an adult. It's late, but I want to start studying again. I'll keep working part-time and do my best. If I pass the entrance exams and graduate from university, I'd like to work at Dad's company again. We, of course, agreed right away. In my husband's eyes, I could see the shimmer of tears. A smile naturally spread across my face as we reconnected with the bond of family.